The escape pod screamed through the sky above the icy planet of Hoth. It spun around and around, tossed by strong, cold winds. Inside, Sergeant John Riley held on tight, his heart beating fast. Crash! Everything went dark. Pain shot through him, then silence. John gasped, trying to breathe. He couldn't see clearly. He reached for his helmet, and the hiss of oxygen was a welcome sound. He looked out and saw a world of ice and snow, stretching out forever under a pale sun. His escape pod was broken, the only sign of life in this empty place. He was stranded, alone. John turned on his radio. Static. Hope faded away with each moment. He had to accept it. He was millions of miles from Earth, stuck on a frozen wasteland. Living seemed impossible. He held his gun, a small comfort in this dangerous place. He needed to find shelter, and quickly. The icy wind nipped at his suit, reminding him of the danger. He knew that living depended on thinking fast and acting even faster.
Gotta find shelter, and fast.
The wind howled across the icy plains, carrying a strange sound, a low whistle, high and almost like music. John stopped, his hand going for his gun. He was alone, or so he thought. He carefully walked towards the sound, his boots crunching on the frozen ground. The whistle came again, closer this time. Then he saw them. Two figures, dark shapes against the bright white snow. They were tall and thin, covered in thick white fur. Their faces looked human, but with big, bright eyes, showing both caution and curiosity. They were aliens. John raised his hand in a sign of peace, hoping they understood. The aliens looked at each other, their eyes fixed on John. One of them, taller than the other, took a small step forward. John moved slowly and carefully, copying the aliens' caution. Talking to them would be hard, but their shared trouble offered a little bit of hope. He realized that living might depend on these strange alien beings.
Please, I come in peace.
The taller alien pointed to John's chest, then to the broken escape pod. Her voice when she spoke was high and musical. John didn't understand the words, but he understood what she meant.
You crashed?
The alien nodded, her face softening. She spoke again, pointing to herself and her friend.
Kyla.
She chirped, then pointed to the other one.
Anya.
John repeated the names, surprised he could say their strange language so easily. Using hand signals and simple drawings in the snow, John explained his situation. He was stranded, his radio broken. He needed shelter and a way to call for help. Kyla and Anya listened carefully, their big eyes reflecting the sunlight. When John finished, Kyla pointed south, showing him a safe place. Anya touched his arm, her touch surprisingly gentle, promising to help. Even though they couldn't speak the same language, they were becoming friends, brought together by shared danger. They were different species from different worlds, but united by one goal, survival. John, Kyla and Anya, an unlikely team facing the harsh wilderness together.
Thank you, Kyla, Anya.
Walking across the frozen wasteland was hard. The wind whipped around them, cutting through their clothes. John, even with his advanced suit, felt the cold in his bones. Kyla and Anya didn't seem bothered by the harsh weather. They moved quickly and gracefully, their white fur blending in with the snow. John, struggling to keep up, realized he had a lot to learn from these tough creatures. They were perfectly suited to this unforgiving world. Kyla suddenly stopped, tilting her head, listening. She pointed towards some icy shapes, her eyes bright with excitement. Anya took a weapon off her back, a long curved blade that shone in the pale sunlight.
Food?
John asked, his stomach rumbling. Kyla nodded, her eyes fixed on the ice formations. The hunt had begun. John watched in amazement as Kyla and Anya moved with grace and skill. They were hunters, born and raised in this harsh landscape. John, for the first time, felt a surge of hope. Maybe, with their help, he could live through this.
Let's do this.
The sun went down, making long shadows on the snow. The temperature dropped, and the biting wind reminded them of how vulnerable they were. Shelter was crucial.
Kyla led us to a cave hidden behind a wall of ice. It was small, barely big enough for the three of us, but it offered some protection from the weather.
John watched as Anya and Kyla worked hard, using their strange tools to make a space inside the ice. They chipped away at the frozen surface, making blocks they used to build a wall, closing off the cave entrance.
I tried to help, but I was clumsy compared to their smooth movements. I felt helpless, realizing how much I depended on these alien women. They were my lifeline in this frozen wasteland.
As it got dark and colder, a feeling of friendship filled the small cave. They huddled together for warmth, sharing the little food they had found. Even though they couldn't talk easily, they felt thankful for each other. They had lived through another day. The storm arrived suddenly. One minute the sky was clear, the next it was a swirling mass of snow and ice. The wind howled fiercely, threatening to rip their shelter apart.
Inside the cave, John, Kyla and Anya huddled together, close for warmth and comfort. The wind screamed outside, its icy breath getting through the cracks in their icy wall.
The temperature dropped dramatically, the air getting thin and freezing. John felt dizzy. He knew the dangers of being too cold. He had to stay awake, had to stay focused.
Anya, seeing he was in trouble, gave him a pouch filled with a strange, strong-smelling liquid. He hesitated, then, trusting her, drank it. The liquid burned his throat, but sent a wave of warmth through his body.
The storm raged on and on. Time meant nothing as they huddled together, barely surviving. But through it all, John had a little bit of hope. He had faced death before, but never like this. Never with such unexpected friends. The storm finally ended, leaving a strange quiet. John, weak but alive, came out of the cave, blinking in the bright white light. The world seemed new, the air fresh and clean.
He looked for Kyla and Anya, his heart racing. He found them nearby, looking up at the sky. They turned to him, their faces showing relief and excitement.
Kyla pointed to the horizon where a faraway light flickered in the sky. A ship. Rescue.
John felt a rush of emotion, joy, relief, and a little bit of sadness. He had lived, he was going home, but what about Kyla and Anya? What would happen to them?
He looked at them, at their alien faces, so strange, but now so familiar. They had saved his life, had been kind to him in this dangerous place. He couldn't just leave them. The rescue ship landed on the ice, bringing a rush of wind and snow. John turned to Kyla and Anya, his heart heavy. Words weren't enough after everything they had been through.
He hugged them both. A thank you and a goodbye. He had tried to get them to come with him, to leave this frozen world, but they said no. Their home was here in the ice and snow.
As he boarded the rescue ship, he looked back one last time at the two figures standing on the ice. They raised their hands in a final goodbye, their eyes reflecting the bright sun. John knew he would never forget them, these two alien women who had shown him what it really meant to survive, to work together, to be kind.
They had a special bond created by danger, a bond that didn't need words or even being the same species.
The rescue ship took off, flying into the pale sky, leaving Hoth behind. John watched as the icy world got smaller below, taking a part of him with it that he knew he would never get back. Back on Earth, surrounded by the familiar sights and sounds of home, John still thought about his time on Hoth. He had faced death and lived, but the things he had learned, the friendships he had made, were what really stayed with him.
He had learned what it truly meant to survive, not just staying alive, but being tough, adapting, and never losing hope. He had learned that kindness and working together can happen even in the strangest situations.
He often thought of Kyla and Anya, hoping they were safe, wondering if they ever thought of him. He knew that he carried a piece of them with him, a reminder of the strength of the human spirit and the ability to connect with anyone, no matter where they come from.
The experience had changed him, had taken away his old ideas and biases. He had gone to the stars and come back with a new appreciation for life, for connection, for the shared existence that connects us all.
His trip to Hoth may have been a fight to survive, but it was the lessons learned, the friendships made, that truly shaped his experience. It showed the power of unity, resilience, and the unyielding human spirit, forever changed by a meeting on a frozen alien world.